Yes, we'll never forget your good people. We'll praise you wherever we go.
Hey, we're back on the Rockabilly N Blues Radio Hour. We just heard a single from a few years back from Pokey and LaFarge, and our guest this week, J.D. McPherson. That was their cover of the Bob Wills tune, Good Old Oklahoma. I caught up with J.D. before a show in Nashville, Tennessee to talk about his new album, Undivided Heart and Soul. We'll get back to that chat after we go back even a few more years to his band he had in Oklahoma called the Starkweather Boys. This is Little May on the Rockabilly N Blues Radio Hour.
To you.
Little May by the Starkweather Boys, going back to 2007 from the album Archer Street Blues and featuring our guest J.D. McPherson. We met up to talk about his 2017 release, Undivided Heart and Soul.
So your third album, what were some of the challenges you faced as you were going into this?
And James, pretty much everything you can think of. Writer's block, pretty substantial writer's block, a little bit of band infighting. We had a bunch of false starts, had a producer cancel on us, running out of money, burning through the budget, crisis of material. The songs that I was coming up with, or the sparks of the idea, the things that I kind of wanted to do, were just left of center enough that were giving me pause. You know, is this something that people are even going to want to listen to? And I mean, pretty much every everything you can think of was going wrong until it started going right.
You recorded at RCA Studio B. I used to work directly across the street from there for years. I would always look out there and look at the tours. In fact, sometimes I would kind of sneak in and behind people in the tours, and they'd turn around and look at me and realize I wasn't part of the group. But it's a pretty amazing place. It's similar to like you walk into Sun Records or Philips recording studio there in Memphis. You just feel the energy there. What was it like, just walking in there the first time?
Well, the idea came about from my good friend Scott McEwen that we sort of had run out of options because we needed to get working right away, and studios book up pretty quick around here, so we didn't really know what we were going to do. We actually talked about going to Memphis and a couple other things. And then at some point, I think we were talking about renting a hotel and recording in a hotel room. So at some point, Scott brought up, well, what about like a studio that's not a studio? What about a museum? Like, what about RCA Studio B? And I laughed out loud. I was like, yeah, that's hilarious. That would be really funny if we got to record at RCA Studio B. And he's like, no, man, I mean, a couple people at the Hall of Fame, just write them and ask them. And they wrote back and said, yes, you can record. They said, you can record a couple of songs. And so when I went in there, was actually the first time I had been in there. I'd only read about it at that point, but we walked in, and Justin, the studio manager, met us. And I have to do this here. It has to happen here. It can't happen anywhere else. And I was trying to think, and this is like an internal dialogue that I was having with myself, don't blow it, don't mess this up, And I just said, well, the Hall of Fame says that we can do a couple of songs here. And he just said, oh, not much is going on. Why don't you guys just do the whole record here? And I just almost passed out. And so that was really it. It was such an act of kindness for the staff there, who aren't really, they're not supposed to stay past tour time, to basically stay and help us kind of just get situated and stay with us every night. It was a real special kindness on their part too.
In case people are wondering who all's recorded there, Elvis, Roy Orbison, Everly Brothers, no pressure whatsoever. Now, you also had to, which I thought was interesting, because it is a museum and they give tours, you had to set up and tear down, the same night, every night before doing that.
So usually when you're in a studio and you're in there for a week, there's guitars laying face down on the floor. There's, spaghetti cables everywhere. There's empty teacups around and empty beer bottles or whatever. There's papers all over the floor. This was not the case in this scenario, because we did have to load in and load out every single day. It was super Spartan, and we started off having 20, 30 amps there to choose from, and then that got whittled down to one amp, one guitar, it was just super, super sparse, because you start getting tired of dragging everything in and out. But in a way, that sort of helped give the record a personality in a way, limited options and options that were not previously available really helped shape what this record turned out to be.
Were there some instruments around that you were able to use, or other things?
Yes, there were. There was a lot of the outboard gear and the console weren't really usable. I think they had a couple of compressors, but the big stuff that was there that really made a difference was the echo chamber that was still operational, a couple of plate reverbs, EMTs, and then the piano, the grand piano, the Floyd Kramer piano. We used that. And then there was a vibraphone there. That was the same vibraphone that was on Crying, like at the beginning of Roy Orbison's Crying.
I was all right for a while. I could smile for a while.
That's the vibraphone. So if you would ever told me 10 years ago that I would be making a record that had a vibraphone on it, I would have laughed, but we couldn't keep our hands off of it.
Don't pass my doorstep if you're hunting for sugar. I offer shelter to a weary traveler. hunting for sugar.
This is Jammin' James Riley, and you're tuned to the Rockabilly N Blues Radio Hour. We just heard our guest, J.D. McPherson, and Hunting for Sugar appears on the 2017 release Undivided Heart and Soul. We'll get back to our chat, but first let's hear J.D.'s guest appearance on the Shovels and Rope album Busted Jukebox Volume 1, and the tune Nothing Takes the Place of You.
Picture from my walls, and I replace them, both large and small. And each new day finds me so blue, and nothing takes the place of you. I read your letter